flash tears through the Gobi Desert night as the Long March rocket ascends. Why did China decide to isolate a human in space for an entire year? The Shenzhou 23 mission plans reveal the limits of the human body in the new lunar race. The date is May 24th of 2026. At the Jiuquan Launch Center, nestled in the arid vastness of the desert, the clock reads 23 hours and 8 minutes. The engines of the Long March 2F rocket ignite. They push thousands of tons of thrust against Earth's gravity. The capsule atop the vehicle carries 3 crew members toward our planet's low orbit. The final destination is the Tiangong space station, the Heavenly Palace, a high-tech modular structure orbiting at an altitude of about 400 kilometers. Up there, the absolute vacuum envelops the solar panels in a profound silence. Since November 2022, the Chinese Space Agency has maintained an uninterrupted flow of human life in this orbit. The operational pattern has always been clear, methodical, and extremely safe. Each team of taikonauts ascends, takes control of the modules, and works for about 6 months. Then they return to Earth in a calculated ballistic re-entry. It's a predictable cycle, tested and validated repeatedly. The current mission, at first glance, should have been just another routine rotation. The previous crew from the Shenzhou 21 mission had already surpassed the 200-day mark in space and awaited relief. The new craft successfully docked at the station's ports. They transferred vital supplies and technical responsibilities without incident. But the flight manifest released by the space agency contained a silent alteration, a specific directive that breaks the cycle established over the past 4 years of continuous operation. At 400 kilometers of altitude, the environment now hosts a crew with very distinct profiles. If you also look at the sky and wonder what's out there, subscribe. We explore a little further each week. Commander Zhu Yongju, a 39-year-old aerospace engineer, leads the new expedition. By his side is Zhang Jiyuan, a former Air Force pilot of the same age. He was trained to react to emergencies in fractions of a second. And completing the trio, Li Yanjing, the first person from Hong Kong to participate in a Chinese crewed mission. They crossed the dense atmospheric layer to conduct dozens of scientific experiments. The Tiangong station was designed precisely for this purpose. It acts as a cutting-edge laboratory in the microgravity environment. The projects range from fluid physics to the development of new pharmaceuticals, compounds that could not be synthesized with the same purity on Earth. But the most complex experiment on board doesn't involve metal alloys or biotechnology. The main experiment is the human crew itself. China's Crewed Space Agency, known by the acronym CMSA, has established a new protocol. For the first time in the country's space program history, the clock won't stop at 6 months for everyone. The official plan requires one of the 3 taikonauts to remain on the station. He will stay in orbit for up to 12 continuous months, an entire year floating in a hostile environment where human biology did not evolve to survive. It's a logistical and medical leap that China had never attempted in its previous missions. The metal structure and the station's solar panels are prepared to withstand the wear. They were built to last decades in the vacuum. The true test falls upon the fragility of the tissues, bones, and mind of whoever stays behind. Anatomy will be slowly degraded at a cellular level by a relentless environment. In space, the absence of constant weight confuses vital systems. Our bodies depend on the daily resistance of gravity to signal bone renewal. Without this constant force, bones begin to lose density at an alarming rate. Calcium is literally dissolved into the bloodstream, and muscles atrophy rapidly. Body fluids, which on Earth are pulled towards the legs, rise towards the chest. This increases cranial pressure and permanently alters the shape of the eyeball, impairing vision. Furthermore, exposure to cosmic radiation drastically increases. Outside the thick protection of the lower atmosphere, energetic particles penetrate the ship's hull. Western and Russian space medicine have already documented many of these effects. They observed these changes in longer missions on the International Space Station. But China needs its own primary data, collected with its own instruments. The Tiangong station will monitor every heartbeat and every alteration in the crew member's DNA. Life support systems will have to work overtime. They will have to recycle water and oxygen for a passenger outside the annual schedule. Food and medical supplies will have to be rationed with mathematical precision. The logistics of keeping a healthy human 400 kilometers away doubles in complexity. It's not just about stretching the return calendar on a control spreadsheet. It's about observing how the human body adapts or fails to adapt to confinement. The biological data collected over these 365 days will be crucial. They will dictate the design of the next spacecraft that will leave Earth's orbit. However, the most intriguing detail of the Shenzhou 23 planning isn't the extended flight duration. It's the fact that the Chinese Space Agency hasn't announced who will be chosen. What does it mean to launch 3 people into space, knowing that only one will face 365 days of free fall? The final decision will only be made during the course of the mission. It will be based on the physical and psychological evolution of each of the 3 taikonauts. They ascended together in the same capsule and shared the same G-forces at launch, but their destinies diverge drastically in the coming months. 2 of them will return to Earth's ground within the normal 6-month period. They will feel the weight of gravity again and breathe natural air. The third will see the hatch close and the return capsule drift away. He will stay behind on the station, awaiting the arrival of the next crew. He will spend months watching Earth spin 16 times a day through the small quartz window. The impact of seeing his original companions depart is immeasurable. Isolation in a pressurized cylinder in the middle of the vacuum brutally tests the mind. No ground simulator can reproduce the sensation of being physically disconnected from the planet. The constant hum of life support fans and dehydrated food weigh on the routine. The absence of wind, rain, or unfiltered natural light aggravate the mental state. The choice of who stays won't be based solely on blood tests or bone density. Mental resilience becomes the absolute decisive factor for the success of this extended stay. And the urgent need to test this resilience points to a much larger objective, a target much more distant from low Earth orbit. The true strategic driving force behind the Shenzhou 23 mission lies in this purpose. The unprecedented year-long stay isn't a record sought for mere national prestige. It's not just a display of technical life support capability. It's a rigorous dress rehearsal for the next great frontier of human exploration. China has officially declared its goal of placing astronauts on the moon's surface The established deadline is before 2030. They are already in the testing phase for the new generation of spacecraft. The vehicle has been christened Mengzhu, which translates as Dream Ship.
But a quick landing on the lunar surface is just the first step of the long timeline. The real ambition is the construction of the International Lunar Research Station. It's planned to operate continuously in the 2030s, a permanent scientific base, whether on the dusty surface of the moon or in orbit around it. These structures will require long stays, far beyond missions of just a few days. A future journey to Mars, the next step in exploration, would require years of transit. These would be uninterrupted years in deep space, exposed to maximum solar radiation. The engineering of heavy rockets and heat shields is advancing rapidly, but the human biology remains the most fragile and unpredictable piece of hardware. The space agency needs to know if their taikonauts can operate complex equipment after a year of degradation. They need to ensure that reflexes and cognition won't fail at the critical moment, especially when rescue isn't just a few hours away. When the distance is 384,000 kilometers of absolute void, when the distance is hundreds of thousands of kilometers, the lessons extracted from the Tiangong station will be the only survival manual. China decided to isolate a human in space for an entire year because the heavy machinery is almost ready. The engineering of engines and heat shields has advanced at the expected pace. But human biology is still an evolutionary anchor that strongly binds us to the gravity of our planet. The Shenzhou 23 mission functions as the ultimate laboratory where the true cost of the space race will be measured. A cost not paid in fuel or titanium sheets. It's exacted in bone loss, silent isolation, and months of life far from home. The vital data extracted from that floating body will pave the safe path for the first steps in the moon's dust. In our next episode, we'll investigate the Boeing Starliner, the astronauts who were trapped for 9 months on the ISS, a mechanical failure that transformed an 8-day mission into an unplanned endurance test. The hatch closes, and the station continues its orbit in silence, diving once more into Earth's cold shadow.